Welcome to the Works of God Quiz, a Bible challenge exploring God's mighty acts from creation to providence. Test your knowledge of how God made, sustains, and rules over all things. Let's see how well you know the powerful works of the Lord. God created the world in how many days? B. 6. Providence means God A. Controls history. Which covenant was made with Noah? C. Noahic. Who did God call the father of many nations? A. Abraham. God's act of sustaining creation is called A. Providence. God's covenant with David promised B. A kingdom and throne. Who did God deliver from Egypt through the Red Sea? A. Israel. God created man in his A. Image. What did God give Israel on Mount Sinai? A. The law. Who was chosen to build the temple in Jerusalem? A. Solomon. Who was called friend of God? B. Abraham. Who led Israel into the Promised Land? A. Joshua. God fed Israel in the wilderness with C. Both. Who called fire down from heaven on Mount Carmel? A. Elijah. Who interpreted Pharaoh's dreams through God's power? A. Joseph. Who did God use to deliver Israel from Midian? A. Gideon. Who did God raise to speak against King Ahab? A. Elijah. Which miracle showed God's power over Baal's prophets? A. Fire on Mount Carmel. Who was chosen to lead Israel after Moses' death? A. Joshua. Which plague finally led Pharaoh to release Israel? B. Death of the firstborn. Who was swallowed by a great fish? A. Jonah. Who prayed and the sun stood still? A. Joshua. Who built an ark by God's command? A. Noah. Who did God call a man after his own heart? A. David. Who parted the Jordan River for Israel? A. Joshua. Which king built the temple in Jerusalem? A. Solomon. Who was preserved in the lion's den? A. Daniel. Who struck down Goliath with a sling? A. David. Who was preserved in a burning furnace? A. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Who led Israel out of Egypt? A. Moses. Who saw a burning bush that was not consumed? A. Moses. Which sea did God part for Israel? A. Red Sea. Who interpreted dreams for King Nebuchadnezzar? A. Daniel. Who struck the rock and water flowed? A. Moses. Who rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem? A. Nehemiah. Who dreamed of a ladder reaching to heaven? A. Jacob. Who received the Ten Commandments? A. Moses. Who shut the mouths of lions by faith? A. Daniel. Who was swallowed by a great fish? A. Jonah. Who prayed and fire fell from heaven? A. Elijah. Who was called a man after God's own heart? A. David. Who dreamed of sheaves bowing down? A. Joseph. Who stopped the sun with his prayer? A. Joshua. Who was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind? A. Elijah. Who defeated Goliath with a sling? A. David. Who built the ark? A. Noah. Who was given wisdom to judge Israel? A. Solomon. Who prayed for rain to stop, and it did? A. Elijah. Who led Israel into the Promised Land? A. Joshua. Who was given strength to tear down a Philistine temple? A. Samson.